I shouldn't have let my boss come over. I knew it then, and I know it even more now. Yet somehow, I still said yes. Now, everything's unraveling faster than I can explain. My name is Claire, I'm 32, and I live in Indiana with my husband Eric. We've been married for 9 years, have 2 kids, Ethan, 8, and Mia, 5, and on paper, our life seems solid, stable. But paper doesn't tell the whole truth. Eric's a good man, dependable, hardworking, and steady. He puts in long hours at the warehouse, steps in with the kids when I need help, and always folds the laundry without complaint. But that's the problem. He's there physically, but emotionally, it feels like he's checked out. There's no spark, no fire. Sometimes, it feels like I'm sharing a house with a roommate who makes mac and cheese and vanishes into cop shows. I want more. At work, there's Nathan, my boss. He's 44, sharp, confident, the kind of man who commands attention without effort. People lean in when he speaks. I don't mean to compare him to Eric, but it's hard not to. Nathan reminds me of the ambition I used to admire, the passion I wish I felt in my own life. So when Nathan suggested dropping by for a drink after a work event, I said yes. Why? Maybe to prove something, that my life, my marriage, was just as polished as his tailored suits. But deep down, I should have known better. When Nathan and I walked in, Eric was on the couch in sweatpants, a bowl of popcorn balanced on his lap, the glow of yet another cop show lighting up his face. The kids were sprawled on the carpet, glued to their tablets. It wasn't the polished picture I wanted Nathan to see, but it was ours. "Hey, babe," I said, forcing a brightness into my tone that even I didn't believe. "This is Nathan, my boss. He's stopping by for a bit." Eric barely glanced up. "Oh, okay." No handshake, no warm greeting, just a flick of his eyes back to the TV. Nathan, ever the charmer, took control of the moment. "Nice setup you've got here," he said, his voice booming in the quiet room. "Real cozy." Cozy. The word sounded more like an insult than a compliment. In the kitchen, Nathan struck up small talk with Eric. "So, what do you do?" "Shipping center, over on Broad Street," Eric replied, his tone neutral. Nathan chuckled. "Tough work. Bet it's hard on the back." That laugh, it wasn't kind. It was the kind of laugh that said, "I'm better than you." I saw Eric stiffen. His jaw tightened, but he didn't say anything. And then Nathan crossed the line. "You ever wonder what life would be like if you married someone like me?" Nathan asked, smirking. Not saying you should, of course. Just imagining. The laugh that slipped out of me was automatic, a reflex I instantly regretted. It was too loud, too eager. Eric's head snapped toward me, his eyes sharp. "You think that's funny?" he asked, his voice cold. "Come on, Eric, he's joking," I said, trying to smooth it over. "You laughed a little too hard for it to just be a joke," he shot back, his voice low but cutting. "Don't be so sensitive," I muttered, but the words felt flimsy and wrong even as I said them. Eric leaned forward, his voice steady and heavy with meaning. "Yeah, but he's not just anywhere. He's in my house." Silence swallowed the room. That night, Eric walked out the back door and didn't come home until the next morning. When he finally stepped inside, he reeked of beer and fried food. His head was down, his expression unreadable. "Where have you been?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he dropped his keys on the counter and looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, and maybe, in a way, he was that I stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "We need to talk." "I don't feel like talking," he muttered, brushing past me as if I wasn't even there. "You could have said that." I snapped, spinning around to face him. "I was worried." He snorted, a bitter sound that made my stomach twist. "You? Worried? That's rich. What's that supposed to mean?" I demanded, my voice rising. His gaze met mine, sharp and exhausted. "You only worry when you're not in control, Claire. This isn't about me. It's about you." The words hit like a slap. You're being dramatic, I shot back, folding my arms tightly across my chest. Am I? He asked quietly, sinking into a chair as if the weight of the world had crushed him. He unscrewed a water bottle and took a long, deliberate sip. A man's got to disappear for a day just to get a little peace. Think about that. I swallowed hard, trying to force down the lump in my throat. Don't try to flip this on me, I said, my voice trembling. I know exactly what you're doing. You want me to feel bad, playing the victim. He leaned back, his face unreadable. I used to think it was my job to protect you from stress, from life. But I never thought I'd have to protect myself from you. The room felt heavier, the air thicker. His words hung between us, cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. Are you done? I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, standing up. Yeah, I'm done. He disappeared into the bedroom, leaving me standing there, arms crossed, replaying his words over and over in my head. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I lay in the dark, scrolling aimlessly through my phone. A video popped up in my feed, a relationship guru talking about men and their silence. Men suffer quietly, the man said, his tone serious. Too proud to speak up about their struggles. I rolled my eyes. Cry me a river. But even as I dismissed it, his words gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. When I woke the next morning, Eric was gone. No note, no text, nothing. My stomach churned as I grabbed my phone and typed out a quick, angry message. You leaving without saying anything? Real mature. I hit send and waited. Nothing. The kids were already buzzing around the house, getting ready for school, but my nerves were shot. Logan, our 6-year-old, tugged at my arm. Mommy, can you tie my shoes? He asked, his little voice soft and patient. Give me a second, Logan. I snapped, not even looking at him. From the other room, Emma, our 9-year-old, started whining. I can't find my tablet. Emma, if you don't stop crying about that tablet, I'm going to lose it. I shouted, my voice sharper than I intended. Logan sat quietly, staring up at me with those big, unblinking eyes that reminded me far too much of Eric's. Quiet, tired, full of things left unsaid. I sighed, kneeling to tie his shoes as guilt crept in like an unwelcome guest. By 1 p.m., Eric finally texted back. I'll be home later. Don't wait up. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. Without thinking, I called him. He picked up, but his voice was flat, emotionless. Don't wait up? What does that even mean, Eric? It means don't wait up, he replied. Coldly, the anger bubbled up inside me, spilling over. So, you're not coming home now? Yep. He hung up, just like that. That evening, Eric finally came home. It was late, much later than usual. His footsteps were deliberate, almost rehearsed, like he'd spent hours planning this exact moment. He placed his keys on the counter, carefully slid off his jacket, and draped it over a chair. All of it without a word. I stood there, watching him. My irritation simmering just beneath the surface. Eric glanced at me briefly, but the look in his eyes wasn't the frustration or exhaustion I had come to expect. It was something else, something emptier. You done pouting? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. For a moment, he didn't respond. Then he sighed, a soft, tired sound that carried a weight I couldn't quite grasp. I'm tired, Claire, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Something in his tone made my breath catch. It wasn't the kind of tired that came from a long day at work. It was deeper, heavier. I crossed my arms, my pride prickling at the edges. Yeah, well, you're not the only one, I snapped. You think I'm living some kind of dream life over here, but he didn't bite. No sarcastic remark, no cutting retort. Instead, he just looked at me, a long, searching look, like he was trying to see something that had been lost between us. That's the thing, he said quietly. I don't think you even know what you want, but I do now. My chest tightened, his words landing like tiny, precise blows. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, squinting at him, trying to read between the lines. He didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled down the old black duffel bag. I stared, frozen, as he began packing. Jeans, shirts, socks, each item folded neatly and placed into the bag. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best effort to sound composed. He didn't look up, just kept packing. "Eric," I tried again, louder this time. "Where do you think you're going?" He finally looked at me, his eyes steady and resolute. "You told me not to come back," he said simply, zipping the bag. "So I'm not." My heart clenched. "Stop playing," I said with a laugh that sounded hollow, even to me. "You're not going anywhere." But he stepped past me, heading for the door. Panic surged. "So you're just going to walk out on your family?" I called after him. "You can't handle one argument without packing a bag." He stopped at the door, turning just enough to look at me. "I'm not walking out on my kids," he said quietly. "I'm walking out on you." The words hit like a punch. I followed him onto the porch, refusing to let him have the last word. "Oh, so now you're father of the years." I spat bitterly. "Since when?" He turned fully, the dim porch light casting sharp shadows across his face. "Since you stopped being a wife and started being my competition." His words stunned me into silence. Without another glance, he unlocked the car door. I could only watch as he drove away, the taillights fading into the night. Days passed. No calls. No texts. The silence was deafening. By the fourth day, I couldn't take it anymore. My resolve broke. I sent him a message. "You done with your little break? The kids are asking where you are." No response. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but I picked it up, hopeful. "Hello." "Hi. This is Angela from Bailey and Mears Law Firm," a woman's voice said. "I'm calling on behalf of Eric Thomas regarding a legal separation." The world stopped. For the first time in years, I felt completely powerless.